Welcome to another episode of New Earth Light Brigade with Arkheim and Audrey Walters. Today we're going to be talking about mostly portal technology in its various different forms, but also I thought a good thing to start with for this show, because Audrey, you brought it up, is the Kim Kardashian Halloween costume thing. I agree that that's pretty pertinent to bring up. So I wanted to just bring that up first, and then go into like the premise of the episode, just because this is so it's so wild to see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen.
And it's extremely bold for someone like her to dress up in a costume like that.
Yeah, so this is it.
Like
People.
knowing how many like conspiracy theories are just going to be just about, but this could also be a distraction about what's really going on.
Well, I mean, the thing that's striking to me is I've seen Alpha Draco Queens in person, and this is exactly what they look like. Oh, other than the nose and the mouth, she couldn't get it. She didn't do it all the way. It looked she, but that's what they look like. So that's the thing that's really stunning to me, and I don't know what it means. I mean, the veil is thin. Halloween is a celebration of like the things unseen and the things unknown, but they're there. That kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it was definitely done in some sort of ritual. But as far as what it means or why, I'm not entirely sure. But as someone who's literally seen Alpha Draco Queens like in person, like that is exactly what they look like. So that's why I think it's just wild. And they're calling her. Oh yeah, the article too. By the way, I want to share this just because I want to share some of the narrative in the article. And just it's very gross, people. So trigger warning. Like if you are like me and you don't like looking at this media BS that they try to feed us, like, but we're gonna read the way that they looked at.
This this
They
could
say the reality star and entrepreneur debuted her sexiest reptilian look yet for Halloween. Albino alligator, she captioned. And they're calling this their sexiest, one of her sexiest looks yet, which I just think it's just weird. And I feel like what has kind of happened with these celebrities like her, I mean, even talking about her right now, we're giving her power, right? But I think that's what it
we
is.
also have to like talk about the music awards of the MTV Music Awards where Sabrina Carpenter ended up kissing a actor that looked like was dressed up as an alien on stage. And I was like, this is like foretelling like what is to come of they might be doing their own alien disclosure and we're doing our own alien disclosure stuff. So it's going to be this battle now is like who's more accurate than who. And it's going to be about does the audience going to trust this group, this more popularized group about the information that they're going to share about disclosure, or are they going to trust us, this pop-up culture that has been around for decades trying to disclose disclosure. So this could be a warning sign for us in our community that they might be actually be starting their own disclosure to counteract our efforts.
Yeah, to make it look silly, but I mean, also at the same time, it's come to this point where it's so out in the open now, and so many people are asking questions, and so many people know these things are real, and it's becoming more and more mainstream, especially with the whole P Diddy thing. It's becoming more and more well known that these celebrity circles have very strange things going on and very questionable legal things happening. and the it's only scratching the surface with the criminal aspect of it. There's also the ritualistic aspect of it, and I am seeing, as somebody who uses YouTube a lot, and I'm seeing that a lot of the more normal, kind of normie people, I guess you would call, are and I don't mean that insulting in an insulting way, or I guess, but maybe I should figure out a better term than normie. I can't think of a better one right now, but basically people that aren't really into this stuff, which is pretty much everyone, which is why we call them normies, because they're the normal ones, right? But anyway, um, we're seeing people that are even normal wake up to this stuff, and I'm seeing it become more and more mainstream. I mean, I kind of was blown away that I saw, like, there's this podcast, Danny Jones, I think it's called, and he gets lots of views, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I think, something like that, with his YouTube, and then I think he's on Spotify and stuff too. And he was talking about, there on the show, they were talking about Alondra Markman, who we've both spoken with. And this is something that's being watched by thousands of people. And you know, they're scrolling, like, the guy, like, does, like, he's like live on the thing looking them up on YouTube, and it's like showing, like, his show Sean Bond, like, he brings it up on the screen for a second. I was like blown away by it. Like, so, like, it's becoming more mainstream to talk about this stuff, and especially the SRA, the satanic ritual abuse stuff, that is more so becoming less of a taboo and more of a thing where people are looking back and being like, there's, because there's too much evidence that it actually happened and that's actually real, and continues to be that way. It's still happening. So there's a lot of people, I think, that are waking up to this, accepting it's real, realizing it's happening, and they are really approaching that point where, are, are the reptilians that people kind of jokingly talk about and stuff like that. It's kind of a pop culture thing at this point, right? The shape shifting reptilians, like, everybody knows about that trope. Like, it's getting to the point where people are like, "Damn, is that real?" I mean, there's also an article. I can look it up right now. Hold on. Harvard. Talks about, like, reptiles, reptilian aliens, um, yeah, crypto terrestrials. Um, Harvard researchers suggest ancient races are hiding in volcanoes. Um, they call them crypto terrestrials, intelligent beings that could be here on Earth. So this is Harvard talking about it, and I forget what the word that they use, but they're very, yeah, non-human reptilian entities that are believed to hide their aerial craft within mountains. It literally considers. So here, I'll share it on the screen real quick just to show people this, because this is mainstream stuff. This isn't the tinfoil hat people like us, who I think eventually they're not going to consider us that anymore. But yeah, the um possible including how many, yeah, locations such as Volcano, Mexico, Mount Shasta in California, along with sort of the UFO sightings, were proposed as potential residences for these clandestine creatures. And this is again, this is Harvard, okay? And unidentified submersible objects, USOs operating at supersonic speeds, have also encouraged speculations. So this is just becoming, like, more and more, and this is, I know this is like WION, but I've seen this in also other places. I'm not sure what this is, but I've seen this in very mainstream places. It's been covered by a lot of people. That's just like one article that I've seen on it out of many, and so it's approaching a boiling point. It feels like more and more weird things are happening. More and more people are like, yeah, I don't know. I think more and more people are
Yeah, my
are
I just reconnected with a friend His name, or his star name, goes by Sekiro, and he was sent to Earth to monitor the central heartbeat of the planet, or the um how do you want to say, like, the immune system of the planet. And it's really horrible to hear what the cabal has done to it over the years. And he has been explaining to me, like, this is the reason why a lot of stargates and a lot of portals um are in disarray, are not working properly, or affecting people with black goo, because of them doing these horrific satanic rituals on top of some of these prolific points on the grid map that connects to the central heartbeat, or the immune system of the planet. And he was trying to explain to me that we're not dealing with global warming. And I understand a lot of people might get angry and upset with me, but he's like, there's an entirely fundamental understanding of it. And me and him both confirmed that there might actually be a pull switch coming soon. And this might explain the reason why we're having not only weather manipulation, but extreme weather events in around the world, because the planet is gearing to have a pull switch. And maybe this is what they're gearing for. Maybe it might not be as bad as it was before. But it's just interesting, because he's been such highly attacked, and he's telling me all this information about my galactic family, how we've been sent here, and just basically that he is essentially part of the ancient family, or the original family bloodlines of the Starseed program here. And it's just interesting to have all this information come out, but we're both like still trying to like figure out information, the past and stuff. But it's just something that a lot of people need to like understand, that
Yeah, it's interesting you're bringing that up because, and we've got some questions already. We'll get to them in a second, but it's interesting you bring that up because I've did a remote view thing with Jessica Jones recently, and she was picking up fault line, picking up a warning to me that the area that I'm living in is going to get basically swept away, and it does seem like some sort of cataclysmic change is on the horizon, perhaps. And there's also like this weird smell. People are getting this smell, and I guess there's a lot of people are saying that they've smelt this before earthquakes happen. So it's just like a lot of signs are pointing towards the fact that I should probably leave Portland, which is I'm really torn up over that because I love it here. But there's a lot of things that are lining up that seem to suggest that some sort of cataclysmic event is coming, that they are gearing up for some sort of reset, potentially.
yeah, the one thing that I do want to talk about, because he was telling me about this, so I don't know how accurate this information is, but Asheville, North Carolina or South Carolina? No, I think it's North Carolina. Um, that entire area used to house a Stargate. Underneath it, there's like a Stargate that's buried underneath it. And he was also telling me that that area is home to Marduk. That used to be his base.
In Indiana?
No, in North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina. Why did I think? Okay.
Asheville, North Carolina. And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Well, if you look up the area and how it connects to some of the ley line energy systems and how it goes directly connected to the Bermuda Triangle. He's like, yeah, they're using this area because there's a um, gigantic Stargate buried under the city that they're channeling energy from the Bermuda Triangle to um, basically fuel energy, like lose energy to Marduk, where that area is. And I was like, that's really interesting to like hear about that. But I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know if anybody who's ever heard about that.
Yeah, I hear all this stuff about how they've dealt with Marduk, and he's like got like a bomb in his head or something or whatever, all this crazy stuff. But I don't really know. I have a sense that he's not as powerful as he used to be, from what I just sense, having a connection with them. But what about the perspective? This is relating to what we were talking about with Kim. What is this perspective of the perspective that reptilians are actual beings, therefore they can shift their shape? I never see anything that would suggest such phenomenon exists in physical. Um, in my opinion, I don't know about yours, Audrey. Well, actually, you go first. What's your opinion on this question?
Reptilian beings are not just astral, they're also physical. Um, the shape shifting reptilians. Oh, this is a really hard topic to talk about because I don't deal with the bad or negative shape shifting reptilians. I deal with the defectors that have been warning me about these cases that I report to the Galactic Consortium about or to the Galactic Council about. And one of the things I have to point back to was a book that I was talking about on my YouTube channel that I did a book review about. And it mostly talks about that there are shape-shifting reptilians or a small colony of them here on this planet that are actually native to humans, meaning that they're genetically related to us, that live in the underground bunkers. And there was a hybrid story about this from the hybrid program talking about.
Well, can you elaborate maybe, because he's kind of saying he doesn't think that the phenomenon could exist. How do they shapeshift? How does this work?
The medical biological structure of their DNA structure changes on the frequency level of how they shape shift. It could also be as be used as camouflage. The biomatrix system of shape-shifting reptilians mostly can do on climate, but they mostly will have to take a sample of a person's blood sample in order to shape shift into that type of person. But yes, it's a very rare phenomenon.
So that would explain something, like for instance the target or remote viewing target I gave Jessica Jones, which is the Mount Shasta robot grandma, which got pins of that somewhere around here. But anyway, it's a fascinating target where this little boy got I gave it to her as a blind target, and she basically confirmed like what people think is that this was some sort of shapeshifter or not human being, basically, that took this kid. And what it was there was a kid that like he was in around Mount Shasta, which was just talked about in this article that was in Harvard. These Harvard guys are saying there's aliens around there, right? They're literally saying that. And then this kid, he gets kidnapped at Mount Shasta, the campground, out, like on the mountain, and it's the whole town panics. They're all looking for him. They don't find him anywhere. All of a sudden, he just shows up, and he's like in a spot they looked a million times. And he tells a story about how he was with this when he's with his grandma next. He says he was with her like when he was gone, when he was kidnapped, and she's like, "You weren't. That wasn't me." And he's like, "Oh well, she acted different than you, so that explains. Yeah, I didn't think it was you or something." But like basically, like this fake version. It's like not his grandma. Like was like oh come with me, and he went with her, and like he said that they basically did like this energy work on him, and that they told him that he's not from Earth, and all this wild stuff. And yeah, it's a whole story, and you can watch like it's like a show of Jessica Jones, the Cryptid House.
Yeah, there is a natural shape-shifting reptilian race that lives or is genetically similar to us. Some of them are broken into different tribes or different fractions, and some of them were hired by the Anunnaki to work for them for loose energy and also for the shadow government to kidnap people. I do know that they do target certain people that do have very specific energy signatures or specific DNA sequence that they could use for the hybrid program. But other than that, yes, they're very rare. Um, I do know that there are shape-shifting reptilians that do live off of Earth, which are Alpha Centauri A and B.
I would also say too, and I think it's applicable here that most humans are on a level where pretty much any advanced reptilian being could manipulate them to perceive them as a human being without them actually appearing as human. There's also that aspect of it. So that was like the like one thing that I really wanted to bring up, and that's an aspect as well.
One of the things I do want to talk about is the ones that can show themselves as a human mostly do it as camouflage. But the way that you can tell the difference between a positive or negative one is that they will show you their human form or the human form that they took on from someone else that they got it from. And then they will show you their true form. Now, they don't like showing their true form because they know that a lot of humans freak out when they show them their true form. And ultimately, and I've been discussing this with the Greys, that they usually freak out. They usually scream, freak out, and they literally have to sedate them to bring them back to Earth because they're so heavily freaked out by it.
Yeah.
And it's this really tug of war that it's it's just they deal with the same issues that we do, where we have bad people that do bad things. They have bad people in their own culture that do bad things as well. And it's them trying to come up with more of a moral aspect. But yes, there were some of them that were hired by the Anunnaki or the shadow government to do some sketchy things back in the past. But I think that deal has been broken due to many different changes that have been happening because of Marduk is no longer in power.
Yeah, that's what I always hear is that he's no longer in power. But it seems like he doesn't not have any. It seems like he's not powerless though either.
Yeah, I don't think he's powerless. I think that there are still certain fractions of the bloodline family or the cabal that still worship him and will not follow anyone else's orders unless it's him directly. So there could be that point of issue where he's like working in the background of like working with the new guardian because some of them will not listen to the new guardian or like listen, so they have to like come out come up with some sort of arrangement or agreement.
So who is the new guardian then?
I've been hearing so many different things about it, but I don't know for certain of who or what they are, to be honest. But I
Well,
have
you know what everyone's gonna think, right? They're gonna think it's Jesus, right? That
no,
is what everybody's gonna think.
it's definitely not Jesus. It's no one religious. I do think that they pulled someone from from the original human bloodline, human bloodline, which is the Melchizedek family, to be the new guardian. Now, I've been hearing a lot that it's a female, but I don't know for certain of who or what she is, or whether or not that's even true, because I've been hearing one thing where she doesn't show enough proof of that she's actually the guardian, and then I hear another side of it where it's just for marketing. It's just for her to do marketing and just stuff, but it's something where the only way that in order to get proof is to basically there needs to be some solid hardcore proof that she is the guardian, and it needs to be confirmed not only from our community, from the Disclosure Now community, but also from the Super Soldier program. And if she is the guardian, if she's the guardian as people say that she is, she needs to start dealing with the SSP aspect of the planet and the Super Soldier program and stuff. And to be honest, it's not that I don't like her or don't have any issues with her. It's just it's now the time for her to start not just dealing with the human fundamental aspects of the planet. You need to start also dealing with the ET aspect of the planet as well.
Well, from what I can understand, I follow. You're talking about Kim Gogan, right? From you, yeah. I
Yeah,
follow.
I don't wanna say her name on air if it's gonna cause issues, but the only reason why I'm not giving out her name is because I don't have enough significant proof to prove that she's actually the guardian.
Well, I think it's for for hypothetical purposes only worthwhile to say. And I follow her work, and I would say that she is addressing um, the SSP aspect of things. If you pay attention to the updates that she gives, which I try to. One of the things that I'm sure you realize being in this community is everybody's putting out videos all the time, and you try to keep up with everybody, and it can be overwhelming at times.
Yes,
But
it's
I do try to keep up with what she's been saying, and I think the reason why I think that she's real is because from the things that I've witnessed in the programs and the things that I've seen, and then the things that she says, she it all lines up with me, and I know also that she pays attention to us too.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
on
agree.
some level, she's aware that we exist and we're doing our work in our corner. She knows that we're out here doing this.
Okay, well, I probably have to go back and relook at her work because 'cause I've been busy with schoolwork, so, yeah. A lot of things have changed in the past couple of months.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, I guess I should say I know that her reporter, one of her reporters, pays attention to my channel. Sunny Galt has commented on it, and she's one of the reporters for UNN. And I just fairly certain she's familiar with me and probably you as well.
Yeah, it's just to clear the waters, I have no beef against her. I
Well,
don't
the
have
problem is everybody draws lines in the sand, and so now if you say that, oh, maybe this could be true, all the stuff she's saying, well, the people who don't like her, I'm like, oh, well, now Audrey's team Gogan or whatever the heck, and it's like, look, this is
yeah,
just
it's not it's like I don't wanna start anything, if that makes sense. I do my stuff on my channel, and I do spiritual investigations that and I love talking about things that other starseeds don't like to talk about. I'm starting a new series on my YouTube channel called Galactic History. Um, how the Orion Wars might be connected to the Starseed program. I do believe because I've been talking with the Galactic Council, and some of them talk about the new empire and the old empire. And I was like, do you and I was like asking them, and this is the reason why I started this, is from the stuff that I've been learning about from the SSP programs over the years. And the Starseed program and me having physical memories of going back to my stasis pod on board my mothership. And I was like, okay, so we have this discussion about the old empire and the new empire. The people that were defectors, people that didn't like the new empire, that were against it and fighting this back in the day, whether they were royalty, whether they were ambassadors, whether they were general soldiers that were against the war of the Orion Wars, um, were they captured, were their actual soul essence captured and put into the stasis pod program to basically come to Earth, and this is the reason why we think Earth is a prison planet, and the reason why remote viewers from Farsight Institute claim that we have the reincarnation traps. Are they keeping the souls from the old empire from reemerging and going back originally? And would this explain the reason why we have the SSP programs is because we are actually old souls from the old empire that they are reusing over and over and over again for different various projects for the new regime that's actually still associated with the old regime.
Have you been paying attention to what the Fireside Institute has been putting out recently?
No, I've not. I've been connecting the dots from Yummy's last interview about when she was talking about the death traps on my YouTube channel and stuff about what I've been researching, but it's interesting because it would explain a whole lot on the reason why certain people are more targeted than others is probably because of how deeply connected they were with the old empire or the old empire or what they were against back in the past before they came to Earth.
Well, basically, what they're saying right now, they're doing these meetings, these ET meetings, or speaking with these sort of ambassadors of these galactic groups. And I think it's important to pay attention to the Fireside Institute. I want to bring this up to people. For most of the audience is probably aware, but for people who aren't, they've been around longer than anybody else doing remote viewing and us on with as a on a scientific measured approach, blind targets with multiple people, multiple sources, verifying the sources, verifying the targets, verifying the information is correct. So that's why I like to pay attention to them as compared to just other people who channel stuff, because you never know what they could be channeling. Whereas the Far Side Institute has checks and balances that they go through to ensure that what they're channeling is accurate and valid. And so they've been having these meetings, and basically what's going on right now is we're at a point where things are heating up and things are getting more, and you can see it. I mean, it's like no shit, Sherlock, right? I'm sorry, forgive my language, but like you can see that things are heating up. Everyone can see this, but what they're saying is these ET, which they call themselves the free will ET, because they believe in free will. Um, they know they don't like to interfere with the history or like with our choices. But what they're doing, because they understand that there's the various groups doing all this stuff to us, and they're trying to bring us down, and there's bad ETs, and they want to give us the tools that we need to be able to see what's going on around us, despite all this mind control, to be able to do something about it. So what they've done, apparently, according to this most recent one, it was about a week ago, 7 days ago, which Yemi was actually a part of. Um, According to them, they've sped up the events. These ETs are saying they've sped up the events. These random, seemingly random, crazy events, and not in a nefarious way, but it's like they're gonna happen. It's like markers for what the cabal wants to do, and what they don't realize or what they're not counting on. I guess for the bad guys, you would say, the bad ETs, the Inhumans, is that because all this stuff is going to happen in such a short amount of time, they think it's like, in their mind, it was like, okay, that means it's end game and it'll be successful. But really, it will show humanity, which I think people you're already seeing. We're already seeing this. Humanity is just realizing things are so bizarre. Like normal people are realizing like things are just getting so strange and asking questions, and that's basically apparently the intention of these free will ET that want to help humanity and want us to be free of these nefarious forces. Is apparently they are have orchestrated things in such a way where a lot of these events that are going to play out will now occur more consecutively and close together, so that yeah, I guess it's just kind of like in a way where hopefully the intended goal is that it kind of blows up in the faces of these nefarious groups, these archonic forces that are trying to take humanity down into like darkness and continue this prison planet scenario that we see. And so we
Yeah.
have two choices, but it's that's what we're being presented with right now, I guess.
So one of the things that I do want to talk about is when I go to Galactic Council and I tell them, or when I work with or talk to them on the other side, is what I like to call it. I tell them like the loose farms need to be shut down, the human trafficking needs to be shut down, the child sacrificing rituals need to be shut down. And I get a lot of pushback from the Dark Council. There's the Light Council and the Dark Council, and it's like, well, they gave permission and blah blah blah, and we already went through a court case about this, and he's being prosecuted. And I was like, um, and I was like, we're talking about children that are under the age of 10 years old that are basically used for these rituals that don't even understand what consent is.
Yeah, they can't consent.
And 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 it's like you're twisting their contract even before they even come here. You're twisting the verbs, the verbs of how they create the contract. And it's like yeah, and it's this really really huge debate between like they're so used to feeding off of the loose energy of earth or for humans that they don't know any way other life, or I mean don't know any other food source that they can survive off of. And also we're dealing with the morals and ethics of okay, so if we shut this down we're basically killing them because they don't have a proper food source. We have to find a new food source for them that is not corruptible, like what they've been doing on Earth or other planets in the
So
galaxy.
basically, by cutting the cord on this, what's going on Earth right now in this prison planet loose farming scenario, what they're afraid of is that these beings won't have anything to eat anymore. Thus, it'd be starving them, therefore causing a sort of form of like genocide. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes, and war, and a new galactic war to be started. And I was like, okay, so why haven't you guys started finding a new food source? What is stopping you? And it's like, I cannot believe that you guys think it's morally okay for you guys to feed off loose energy from children. And I was like, okay, let's change the laws. You can no longer feed off of loose energy from children.
Yeah,
Or
but the reptiles don't care about that.
and it's like you have to go through like compromises with them.
You don't understand, like, well, maybe you probably do understand. I don't mean to sound like condescending, but like they believe in might equals right, and like we're weak, and like
Yes, that is
they
that's
understand this, and they don't see that they're doing anything morally wrong at all. And that's the problem. Like they don't, like it's the same way, and then they look at it as us. Well, look at the factory farms we have here on Earth. They will literally, if we try them in court, that is exactly what they will bring up. They'll say, look at the way that they treat cows. Look at the way they treat pigs. Look at the way they treat all these other animals that are just as intelligent as
well,
they
they
are.
actually ended up stop doing that actually. Ended up actually stop doing that because I ended up finding a loophole in what they were saying. Because you have to be like careful of like how they project things. and I basically squashed that debate, and told them, and I was like, yes, but you have to understand that it was really interesting how I squashed this debate, and I was like, yes, we do treat these animals, but you have to understand that they were domesticated for food for humans. They were that way. We're talking about humans who have an intelligent level above an IQ of 70. Some of these animals have an IQ under 90 IQ, so they're not technically considered as an intelligent species.
Yeah,
And
but basically, it's a justification still.
yeah, it gets into a more complicated issue, but I was basically trying to, like, squash the debate, and I was like, "You do realize that there are farmers, and if you actually listen to the farmers, there are farmers that treat these animals with utmost respect of how they."
Yeah, and the problem is the commercialization of farming. That is one of the things that is really. Thanks, Bill. That's one of the things that really is a problem, and it comes down to a lot of things like the commercialization of food and agriculture and everything. It's the reason why there's all these preservatives and chemicals and things like that in our food. It's the reason why we've monocultured or excuse me monocropped, like there's just corn, like there's just so much corn in the United States. We put corn in everything. We've
Yeah,
basically
I
food
don't
engineered everything to be able to be made out of corn, which is not a good thing because then if the crop of corn fails, then like all this stuff, it's like going to
yeah.
cause catastrophe.
Yeah, like I was saying, like, we have so many foods here in the United States that are banned by the UA or by Europe, and I was
Yeah.
like, why aren't Americans, or, like, why aren't we, up in arms about this? Like, a lot of our food is banned in other countries. Why is that? Why are we not, like, why aren't a lot of, how do you wanna say, um, people who are into, like, being vegans or more healthy food sources and stuff, why aren't you going on the fence and saying, "Hey, we need to start," going after the Drug and Food Administration and be like, "Hey, we need to stop making this type of food," stuff. So it mostly comes down to, like, we need the general public, not just the SSP, but we need to find a way to get the general public to wake up from their slumber and start being more activated and trying to change things. And it's really hard to do
It's
it's really hard to do when they think that when we start talking about this is absolutely crazy.
I think that we need to be a little bit more gentle with people and just approach it like it's a lot of it's how we say it, um, like how we present it. So I think that's one thing because I think that people are becoming more aware. I want to thank Bill for the donation and also because I can just thank you so much, Bill, for bringing it on the screen. And Bill has awesome technology. He's been on a show before, and he supports the show, which is great. And then this guy asked if there's anything that can like fight basically the reptilians. And there's a lot of different groups and things and
Bells and chimes, they don't like singing bowls. I do know that some reptilian species are actually allergic to water. So keep a stray bottle of water by your bed, or chimes or bells next to your bed. I do know those are the two things they don't really like.
all right, well, yeah. Um, and then I guess, well, on to the also, we were, and it's funny because like we just wanted to bring up the thing with the Kardashian and the reptilian costume. She looks exactly like an Alpha Draco. queen. So we wanted to bring that up, and it ended up being a long conversation, but that's fine. But we also are going to talk about um, portals, portals and gateways. That is what the thumbnail of the show and stuff is. And yeah, I just noticed that you did a show with Sean Bond, and you were talking about a lot of interesting things, and I figured it would be nice to do a show on here as well and educate the people that watch this show and tune in to this channel. About this basically a lot of the same stuff, and also I've had experience with too. But you were
Yeah,
talking about
I thought. Oh, sorry.
you know, I was just gonna say you're talking about sentient stargates, and I wanted you to kind of just bring that up, and we can talk about that and just how it applies to everything going on.
So where do you want me to start with the sentient stargates, like the morals and ethics about it, or do you just want me to like answer some questions that you had dealing with the experiences as sentient stargates?
Just maybe just explain what they are and where they come from and that kind of stuff.
So there are sentient stargates. They're mostly the ones that are metal stargates that are fused with metal. Not so much of the stone gates or the monolith stargates that we have. So the stargates that are more like metal, that are mostly might be fused a little bit with technology. Um, those are the ones with the sentient AI. Now, with the sentient AI, some stargates either identify as male, female, or neither. They don't prefer or like non-binary. Those are the three that they mostly identify. Um, and and most stargates, once they become a sentient, you need to start treating them as though they are actual human beings or like actual intelligent people that can speak to you back and forth. Once you start to gain like friendship with stargates, the stargates will actually give you their true name that was given to them by the builders or the artists that have developed and created those stargates. So each stargate is created by artists, engineers, architects, people that have very um, unique artistic abilities that are like psi artistic abilities, and they're extremely rare. They're extremely important for them in order to create the stargates. The more intricate or more detailed design that is woven into the stargate, the more powerful it becomes. The less intricate details like you see um, that are just like stone gates and they just have the symbols. Um, they're just used for basic travel, and where the more intricate designs, the more lavish they are. Um, the more that you're able to not only travel outside of the solar system, but you can travel to other planets and even other planets' densities, alternate realities, all that. But you can't really do that with a regular mundane Stargate where they'll just make you travel to one planet. But you can't really like travel to an alternate reality. You can travel back in time to an alternate reality, but you can't like literally plunge yourself into an alternate reality similar to the reality that you were from or to another planet, if that makes sense.
Okay, I just thought that was really interesting that you're talking about how they're like alive and stuff, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I do want to announce that the I guess we can call it the timekeepers or the time lords. So there's an emergency Stargate under the pyramids, and they switched out the older gate with a more younger gate that has personality. Because with a Stargate that's younger and has a little bit of like a childish personality, is uncorruptible. And the reason being is because the Stargate or the way to order to get to the Stargate, you have to go through a labyrinth. And the Stargate, you have to understand, has a childlike personality. Laughs every single time that a person can't figure out how to get through the maze and gets pushed out of the maze and has to start over again. And the reason being is because that younger Stargate, if a person does come through, it has to answer questions, and a younger Stargate can determine whether or not a person is lying or not, or like gauge what their intentions are. The more older Stargates couldn't do that. They're like, where do you want to go? Um, just type in your coordinates. They're just basically straightforward, but a younger one that has more experience emotionally will be like, what are your intentions of traveling? Where you're going? What are your intentions of going there? Um, are you going to be coming back? How long are you going to be there for? And this mostly they create a log of travelers with the younger gates, like travelers and what their names were, so that if you need to find someone in the travel logs, you can find their name or what their name associated is in the new younger gates, which is a new feature in the Stargates by the Time Lords, is to keep.
When you say the Time Lords, can you explain what you mean by that?
So there are Time Lords that live in what is known as the null time, or live in between time, where time doesn't flow backwards, forwards, or doesn't even flow in general. Um, they were known as the Sovereign Chain Collective, or what is known as the Jelly Race, as it's mostly referred to. Um, they were um they were being hunted down because of their abilities to travel through portals without getting sick, and they just like loved traveling around, but people at the time did not understand that they were actually sentient beings. So the one of the ways that they would actually be able to get notice is that they had to figure out how to interbreed with actual physical beings. And so because of that, their descendants that are hybrids between jelly and actual physical entities started to become Time Lords or Time Keepers, because their genetics is connected to jelly race, or the Sovereign Gene Collective as it's known. So their hybrids are the ones that mostly maintain the gates, or mostly maintain the upkeep of different stargates. There are them that do need people with certain size abilities across the galaxy that do have some sort of artistic ability that is psi, that they use or collect or hire to create stargates and stuff. And there are also gatekeepers. Depending on what planet they are on, they usually have someone from their collective or someone from that planet that is the gatekeeper of the gates. And so if a planet wants to Stargate and they want a gatekeeper, they can have it, but usually under with strict guidelines. And this is what the gatekeeper does, is that they keep track of who comes in and out of the gates, what for, what they're there for. They repair the gates if the gate starts to deteriorate or collapse and stuff. And that's just basically what their main job is just be the gatekeeper. They can lock the gate if the planet's going under a civil war or having some sort of like issue. They can lock the gate or lock the gates around the planet. So that means that no visitors can come through, including through portals, that they can't come through portals or through the stargates. And that's basically what a gatekeeper is that they maintain all the portals and gates on a planet.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, I guess for my experience with portals is, there's also people can open them.
Yeah, some of the Stargates are run on what is known as Kyger crystals, or what we used to call them as time crystals. Um, a lot of the headstones that operate, like when you like try to punch in codes and stuff, in order to activate the older Stargates, like the first generation, you literally had to like pull, you know how you like pull on a cord? You literally had to like rotate it by hand in order to get where you want to go. Um and those were kind of like interesting to use, but it was also tiring. But but it was also used to, that was mostly like first generation. The more advanced into civilization is that they would have this dial gate, like where you punch in the codes and then the gate would open. Under the gate, there would be crystals, and those are the Kyger crystals that would harvest. And there were certain colors or certain ones that would be used to identify different locations and how to activate them. I think there was yellow, purple, red, blue, and orange. And each of those crystals, if you put them in a specific way within the gate, or the way that it would help activate or to change the location of where you want to go in the galaxy. Like it would be different quadrants of the galaxy, and it would basically show a map of where you want to go and how to organize the crystals and where you want to go in the galaxy. Sort of like a sort of like a computerized data bank through crystals. It's sort of like using the crystals as some sort of like hologram projection. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's also possible, um, depending on who you are. Different people have different abilities that can be quite profound, and it is possible to open portals like naturally, um, by just opening them, and that's one of the things that has been used by different military agencies for a lot of different stuff. The fact that I have the ability to do that, um, I've been used to do a lot of things that other people, if you didn't have that ability, you wouldn't be able to do it. A lot of things that no one would ever be able to see it coming because nobody understands that portals or teleportation exist.
Yeah, the one of the things that I do wanna mention is that, if you wanna make a portal that's more stable, if that makes sense, this is another reason why they built, lighthouses by the waterways, is because you can draw natural energy from the water, from the ocean to create portals where you
That's
can.
why they have them underneath lighthouses all the time. Then
Yes. So, like, if you wanna build, like, a more powerful or more stable Stargate, you can literally draw energy from the water, which is, like, pure energy water, and basically be able to basically go through that portal in a more stable way. I do know that there are some instances where there are certain trees, like I was talking about, where you can harvest the energy from trees in order to create a more stable portal. But if you're just creating a portal just straight from your energy, it doesn't last as long, and sometimes there's a lot of, you get tired out. Like once you create it, you got to go through it very quickly, and then sometimes the travelers pass out on the other end because it's so much energy that they abuse inside themselves in order to open up those portals. So one way to order to get around that is that they would use natural energy or even energy from like crystals. So sometimes they will go by like a mountain where they know that has specific material properties and try to harvest the energy from there in order to create a portal to travel.
somebody said that, um, in Star Wars they call them kyber crystals. In StarCraft, Darian crystal, and in Call of Duty Zabio Ethereum crystal element 1115. So basically, this element that you're talking about that does this has been in a they've disclosed it in a lot of different forms of media. So
Yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah, we call them the kyber crystals or the time crystals. That's the two names that we go by, but they go by a lot of different names depending on what they're used for and what planet or what civilization uses them for.
Um, is there any more ground we need to cover as far as the portals and the stargates or anything else?
Just the moral aspects of it, like don't travel through the gate that you are high, drunk, and stuff, is because there is a safety mechanism in the Stargates where if you are high or drunk while traveling through the gate, it will take you to a pocket dimension and you will stay there until you sober up. And sometimes, whether or not the gate has intelligence or not, you might get stuck there for a couple of months until another gate pops up. So don't travel the gate while you're drunk or high because you'll end up being trapped in a pocket dimension until you sober up. And it might take you a couple of months to get out of that pocket dimension unless you know the true name of a Stargate.
Oh wow! So like knowing its true name holds power over it.
Yeah. Like for an example, if you go through, like, you don't, like, for an example, if someone injects you with something and just pushes you through the gate, the gate will send you to a pocket dimension where you either can sober up or take on the effects of what it's done to you. And you will basically stay there until you basically sober up or get better, basically. And then the Stargate, depending on what gate we'll go through, will come back and check on you and see whether or not you're ready to go through the gate or not and stuff. But if you know the true name of a gate and you know that you are like sober and stuff, um that gate can immediately pop up and be activated right in front of you so that you can travel again. Like, you don't have to, like, re-dial in your location and redial where you need to go.
That's really interesting. And then of course there's also the moral implications of just like what portals can be used for, and obviously some things need to be made illegal, and then other things. Um, well, here's a good question, I guess. How do they stay alive when they travel through the portal?
Oh, this is a really good question. This is really hard to explain because they just do, to be honest. Like, the molecular structure of the wormhole protects the molecular structure of the object that goes through the gate, and it just does, due to the fact that it goes faster than light, or goes a lot faster than light. You can be there within minutes and not feel the effects or like feel like you're being suffocated and stuff, if that makes sense. It's just because of how fast it goes, you don't you don't like um I
We
guess
should
what
also talk about mirror portals, which are a bit different, where it's kind of, from what I've experienced, just like walking through a door. And it's kind of just like it brought two places to one place, made a doorway, and that's really it. You just walked through. And there's no reforming of atoms or anything like that. You just walk through.
yeah,
And so that's the one that the Montauk Project used the most.
yeah,
Well, I guess they used a lot of different forms of it, but that was the one that I was the most familiar with, and that was the trip chair, a mirror. Usually, they would use a child to open the portal, and then they would send people through. And so that's another thing.
Yeah,
Is
did
weird.
when you were going through the mirror, did they ever get you to wear some sort of, like, necklace in order for you to, like, open it when you needed to come back?
This,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
this is it. Yeah,
Okay. So for anybody that's interested, they would use specific necklaces that are, how do you wanna say, important or have some sort of a significance to order to, like, open or reopen those mirror gates or certain types of gates.
yeah. If people want to see this, I gotta explain this, and I don't know if you knew this, but it's this is a phoenix coming out of a portal, and so people could witness this maybe if they've been following the channel kind of in real time. Is when I found this, and what it was is, well, at the time it was kind of crazy because I was getting memories back of having a phoenix, and in a like in a, this was at the beginning of my journey, and that was a crazy memory. I'm like, what in the hell, right? I was very confused by it. But then this necklace showing up seemed like a confirmation of it because I remember that the Phoenix could open portals and stuff like that. And so it's a Phoenix coming out of a portal. Now, what I did not remember is basically this is it's related to grounding to the right reality, going back to the right reality, being able to open the portal and go home and stuff like that. And I gave basically I went I knew that I went on a time mission during Montauk on my own volition, where my grandmother was in Italy and with her sister, and so my what is that? What do they call that? My grand um aunt, yeah, grand aunt. Um, but anyway, I gave I sent them a bottle of wine over to their table. And I can't remember the excuse I used to talk to them, but I started talking to them. And anyway, I left there. I just hung out with my grandma. It was a really interesting person. And I gave her a bottle, or I gave her gifts, or like a gift. And I remember one of the gifts that I gave her was this. But I believe that I did it knowing that the other version of me in the future would end up with it, and nobody has ever seen her wear it. It was found in her stuff, and that's the sense that I got. I've been figuring out that it has to do with grounding through portals and being able to go back home and stuff like that, and being able to go back to where you belong. And so it's like a grounding thing, and so I never take it off. It doesn't leave my body. Um,
Also, I wanted to ask you to see if anybody else from the SSP community, but they started to develop, from what I know, there were portal guns. I don't know if you ever saw, like, there was a very specific type of gun or, like, some sort of device that they would
oh yeah,
dial and then a portal would open up. Do you
there's
ever?
all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah, there's also there's portal guns, but there's also a thing where which can be quite dangerous, and you need to kind of have remote viewing to be able to see where you're going to make sure you don't teleport into anything. But they have watches that exist, and I don't know how the technology works at all. I can't tell you, but it's like this, and you can turn this, and then you can choose the time, and it has the date on it as well, like a circles on it where it have the numbers of the month, the year, the date, and basically you can turn it to where you want it to go, and then you turn it back, and then you push it in, and then you're there. But you're literally in the same exact place in is where you are in that moment. So that technology exists, and I don't know where it comes from, but I'm pretty sure it's like really old. It's like one of those things where you think it's new and it's newfangled, but it actually comes from like some like the ancient builder races or whatever. But yeah, I know that technology exists. So there's just like yeah, and then so that's another thing where there are people who have the ability to literally teleport, just like teleport. Like there's not a portal that opens; they just teleport. And so without a watch or any technology, that is also another form. And then it's so it's there's all these different ways to do it, and that's one of the things that I really wanted people to understand, and why I wanted to do a show on it. Is there's many different forms of like teleportation, wormhole, travel. Like for instance, when the military first started doing it, they were using what was called the Tesla teleporters. And the thing with the Tesla teleporters is they had like radiation problems. You kind of like actually for the guy who's like, how did they stay alive? And he asked him the question, which I should take down now. But well, when they went through the portal, like how did that happen? Like there were actually situations with that technology where people would get stuck in between and stuff like that, and it was kind of more rudimentary, and it is one of those things where they figured it out as they went along. When it came to these military groups that are using it for time travel purposes and stuff like that. And there's so it's really important for people to understand if they are interested in this subject and want to know more about it. Is that there's so many different ways that people can teleport and go through wormholes and stuff like that. It's not just one way. So when people talk about this stuff and their experiences aren't completely exactly the same, that's part of the reason. Is because there's more than one way to do it. Somebody brought up also there's the jump rooms, which are elevators that basically bring you to another planet.
The teleportation sensor, you know how in Star Wars they have the beaming technology? That's the same thing in rooms.
What is it then? Can you elaborate?
So the jump rooms is the teleportation center. So you ever seen the Star Wars where they would beam people onto planets or beam them to someplace? That's the same thing with the elevator, the jump rooms.
Okay, yeah, but that's something that a lot of people have testified about and seen. Fairly certain that I've seen them in the programs as well. But yeah, it's there's just a lot of different ways to do it. Um, to a lot of different. Oh yeah, maybe that's a good question. Is that what the Anunnaki were on the wrist? Because yeah, there's the Sumerians.
No, the ones that were so so the braces that they would wear were not for the Stargates. They were for their mothership or their ship to control the maintenance or control their ships that they would
Oh
use.
wow. Okay, so I'm gonna bring it up on the screen here. I just want to bring up a big. Here you go, and then I'll.
Yeah, a lot of their bracelets were used to control their ships or their personal ships that they would use to fly.
Okay, that's very interesting. We can actually show you guys this. So this thing right here,
Yep.
and what would that like summon their ship or?
Yeah, it will summon their ship to come pick them up or to beam them inside their
And
ship.
then from what I recall, that little circle in the middle, can't a hologram come out of it?
Yeah. It'll give them a locate it'll give them like, for an example, sometimes their ship would be used as, like, a drone, you know how you see drones and stuff? So they would use their ships as drones to surveil the area where they are from, and they will see the images from their ship of the location or an aerial view of the area where they are in through their ship.
So that's incredibly, isn't that it? It's just one of those things where it's like so incredible that it's like out in plain sight. Like you can actually like look at these old ancient images, and people wonder, yeah, what is that? And now here we are, we're talking about it. It's great. It's just kind of almost gives me goosebumps because it's like, yeah, it is what it is, and it's so relieving to talk about this stuff and just like acknowledge it as real. And I appreciate everybody here in the audience asking questions, supplementing things, and just you guys are awesome, man. I really appreciate everybody that follows this channel and tunes in and everything. And didn't Star Trek have jump rooms? I don't think. No,
I
they
haven't
had. Well,
watched.
yeah, no, technically, kind of the teleportation rooms. What do they call it? The teleporters. The didn't they have a name for it? God, I'm a huge Trekkie.
I
Um,
have not, I'm only on season 4 of the Star Trek New Generations, so I have not gone. I've watched the old one, but I have not watched all of the series yet. But I'm trying to go them. I'm trying to do them in chronological order. But I'm on season 4 right now, so I have not gone that far into the Star Trek universe. But I'm waiting for the new series.
it's great. It's
Yeah,
fun. I love Star Trek.
that's what I'm really hoping for is the SSP to turn into Star Trek. I'm really
Yeah,
that's
well, that's what
vision,
does
that's
Brian always say? The Star Trek future. That is what we need, right?
yes.
You know, and I've also heard get this. So I know people on the programs where, because like we're some of these authors of ours, mine, ours, um, they're used to space and stuff more than they're used to Earth and they're used to that life, right? And so I know people that would literally black out during Star Trek. Like they watched it when they were a little kid, but they never remembered it because their author was watching it. Their author would take over and watch it. So that's just kind of an interesting thing is it really is kind of like that familiar. Like it almost feels like home in a way when you watch it because like yeah, like it is it's very different. Obviously it's retro future. Like they worked with what they had. A lot of stuff's off. They missed the mark on a lot of things, but for entertainment's purposes, and they did a fairly good job and depicted a lot of things really accurately as well. You know what I mean? Like the smart pads, warp drive, um, just all sorts of stuff. Like they showed a lot of things that exist now. A lot of them were portrayed in Star Trek way before they ever did exist. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I also want to let people know because I know that we're getting close to wrapping up this show. I have my YouTube channel known as Starnet Link. Um, it's a channel where I do a lot of different spiritual research channels and try to
It's
like,
all one word, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I also do have my services. I'm a spiritual consultant. You can book a session with me. I have my general readings, which is $100 a day, and my general readings, which is $200 a day. I do have a video that explains everything about what my services are. A lot of times, some people just like booking my general readings to just have someone to talk to about their experiences or get a second opinion about some of the readings that they have done in the past. I don't so my generations are there to help people out of what they're going through and try to give them to people who might have better resources than I do to order to help them with what they're going through. My energy work, I am a certified Reiki master. I do have a certificate to prove it, but I don't use it unless people want me to use it on them. Because everything's done by permission. I do tarot card readings, aura readings, chakra assessments, and I also do galactic origins. That's all part of the services that I do. If you want to book a general reading or an energy work, um, and people can go ahead and find that video of my services on my YouTube channel at StarNet Link. If you want to book a session with me, I have my Telegram. You can reach out to me on Telegram and also my business email at starseednetlink@gmail.com if people want to book a session with me.
Can you post the what is your Gmail so I can post it in the comments real quick?
Starseednetlink@gmail.com.
So So this is how you get a hold of Audrey if you want to speak with her and book a session with her. And yeah, I really appreciate you all for being here. I guess we're going to wrap things up. We're going to end the stream. And we should be back next week. We haven't figured out our guest yet, but we've got enough time, I think, to figure something out. And but yeah, we'll see you guys again soon. And thank you for being here.
Bye, everybody.